Headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
It's not actually about trans people, it's about women most of the time. But the latest staunch of messages and insane statements from people. Yesterday we had Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, who apparently struggled to know what a woman was recently and whether or not a woman has a cervix or a man has a cervix. Yesterday he was asked by an old colleague of mine, Nick Ferrari, whether or not a woman could have a penis. And yes, I won't keep saying that word, but if the children are listening. But he couldn't answer the question. He tried to avoid the question, so it was too difficult to answer. I have to say, I really think it's a little bit worrying if a man can't answer a question about whether or not a woman has that particular appendage or not. This came on the day when NHS apparently are asking men if they could be pregnant before they have a scan that could be a danger to their unborn baby. When the British Cycling have said that they will accept participants in the gender they present, not their biological sex. And a pub has decided to end the ploughman's lunch and replace it with a plough person's lunch. I kid you not. Well, let's talk about all of this madness with Miranda Yardley. She's a human rights activist. She's herself trans and joins us now. Good morning to you, Miranda.
Oh, hi, Julia.
I do think we should need to start all of these conversations with a deep sigh, don't we? Let's talk about Keir Starmer, first of all. He's had some questions about women and trans women and cervixes and things like owners of cervixes and the like. Yesterday he was asked a really simple question, if a woman could have a penis, and he said the question being asked in this way was not helpful. He said, I don't think we can conduct this debate I don't think that discussing this issue is this way helps anyone in the long run, etc., etc., etc. I mean, it's a really simple question, isn't it? Don't you think?
It's the question. If you can't, and the answer, considering how much time he's had to come up with that answer, I think that was a really poor show. And it's not like he's not had the opportunity to speak to women about this. There are a number of women's groups like Women's Place UK and the Labour Women's Declaration, as well as Lesbian Labour, who have reached out to Keir and got absolutely no response from him. Even some of his own MPs, like Rosie Duffield, has spoken out on this as a woman, and he's not supported her. In fact, his response to the question about whether or not a man can have a uterus that happened, I think it was last year, pretty much threw her under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary that we've got politicians who are so uncomfortable at this. I spoke to a Labour frontbencher, James Murray, the other week on the show, and just asked him, about women and trans women. Now, you're a trans woman. You're a biological man who is living as a trans woman, but you accept that you're not a woman in the sense that biologically you are a woman. You are a trans woman and would be treated with respect and exactly the same way we would treat anybody. But you accept that there is a difference, don't you?
Yeah, of course there is. I mean, you've got to be the prerequisite to being what you describe as a trans woman is that you have to be a man.
This is a bit. It's almost like not accepting, and then this is the whole dead naming on social media thing, where you can't even acknowledge that somebody was once a man, even if they themselves acknowledge it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I say it's ridiculous. This really is the defining social issue of our time, and it speaks volumes that the Labour Party haven't really got a grip on this. To be honest, I don't think the Conservative Party have either. No. I listened to you eviscerate Rishi Sunak the other day, although I think his problems have somewhat escalated.
Well, yes, I was asking him here whether or not, yes, he could define a woman, and he said he agreed with what the Prime Minister had said, which wasn't a definition of women, but the Prime Minister had said at PMQs recently that, yes, he thought, the paramount importance of biology. But again, not quite stating some, the really clear facts. So always leaving themselves wriggle room in case they're going to offend someone. I don't know who they're going to offend, because they have to be offending people who don't understand basic things. We've got silly things like the plough person's lunch. I mean, that story's been around for years. There's been pubs talking about, ploughman's lunch becoming a plough person's lunch. The NHS Trust asking men if they're pregnant before they have a scan. I find it quite funny when I'm asked, at the age of 53, could you be pregnant? I'm like, God, I hope not, before I have any treatment. But, it's just they're going through the motions and they need to do these things. But it is absurd that, a bearded 6'4" bloke turns up for a scan and is asked, could you possibly be pregnant? I mean, this just makes a nonsense of these things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a farce. And also there is there's an element, I think, to this which is performative, that that the organisations have to go through this type of performance in order to validate somebody's fantasy, and it's insincere. It is. I think it's incredibly damaging, really.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a Labour Party leader, you can't deny the existence of biological sex, because there is this idea of material oppression based upon biological sex.
Well, exactly, but there is a reason why women, for instance, have had safe spaces because of the risk of sexual assault or violent assault. I mean, those are simple facts. Of course, no one's saying all men do that. Of course not, but a minority of men do. But then you get into sort of things like fairness and the destruction of women's sport. We saw with the weightlifter at Lauren Hubbard at the Olympics last year. We've seen with the swimmer in America, Lia Thomas, and now British cycling. They've said that they will accept participants in the gender they present. They've also said they'll punish anyone who speaks out about this, and this is an ongoing issue. We have when where the women who are forced to compete against men, biological men in these sports, men who often, by the way, have failed to compete in the men's category successfully, but then compete as women without any surgery, any treatment, anything at all. If they speak out, they are punished. I mean, this is, again, people overuse this term, but it is Orwellian.
I'd say that is actual proper oppression, to say that if you're going to compete, you've got to compete with this person who is a man, and you've got to pretend that this person is a woman, and if you speak out about it, you're going to be sanctioned. That's proper flexing of power.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you're speaking out on this. Miranda Yardley is human rights activist and joins us. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. 7:58 is the time.
Good talk. Hot talk.
Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.